Hey everyone, this is Ryan Cook from Gene Simmons Band, and you are listening to Ages of Rock Podcast.
Welcome to the Ages of Rock Podcast with your hosts Bill Algie, Dennis Talbot, and Alan Tate. We are three guys who have one thing in common, a love of rock and roll. Our goal is to talk about all things rock. We hope you find this show intriguing, funny, and occasionally highly opinionated. Enjoy!
Welcome to the Ages of Rock Podcast. It's Bill, Alan, and Dennis. How you guys doing?
Woo, we're doing good.
Oh, smiley face for those of you that are listening. From Alan, it looked like Alan, but then it was a little smiley face.
He's gonna be like Bob Dylan. I'm a happy face. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna throw.
You know, I actually thought about doing a bunch of different emoji index cards.
There you go.
Too funny. Hey, this is episode number 115. That's crazy, you guys. I mean, really think about it. 115. Holy mackerel! I thought for sure we are gonna last like 3. But we made it. It's pretty good. Anyway, tonight we got a guest on tonight, the one and only Joel Hoekstra.
Yay!
And that is going to be cool. So he'll be coming up in a little bit, but we got to do a little chatting here first. A couple cool things happened this week. So who wants to start?
I will start with my review of Jesus Christ Superstar. I have a 5-word review for that. Alice Cooper stole the show. That's it. I'm out.
I would agree.
Okay, here's me. I have it recorded on DVR, but haven't watched it yet. I got 11.
DVR is like one word, dork.
And I'm glad I did because I heard that it was like a commercial every.
There were a lot of commercials.
10 minutes.
There were a lot of commercials. They had to pay for that live thing.
So I'm gonna take that 3-hour show and I'm gonna make it probably about an hour 20.
Well, I took that
40.
3-hour show. I watched the intro because it was all instrumental.
Right.
And then my friend actually, we were watching something else, and he texted me. He's like, Alice Cooper's getting ready to come on. So I looked at the clock to see what time it was so I know how far to skip on my DVR to get to the Alice Cooper part.
We watched the whole thing. I mean, we were like a half hour behind.
Yeah.
So we ended up catching up about an hour and a half into it. So there was that much of commercials that we zipped through, but I definitely, I thought it was really pretty good. I liked the music. I thought the band was great. I mean, it's just, I just was waiting for Alice. And when he coming down those stairs, I was like, that was cool. And the song was really good, and it was cool. I thought it was definitely cool.
Did you guys? Well, Dennis has muted himself, so I can talk. Did you guys see how quickly the bootleg Alice Cooper T-shirts showed up on Facebook?
No, I didn't see them.
There were King Herod T-shirts. The show wasn't even over, and they were already popping up.
Wow. Well, he did have when we saw him the other day, at the end of the show, he said, playing the part of Alice Cooper, King Herod.
That was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny.
So here's my question. I have seen, I did cheat, and I've seen his performance. Of the song itself. Did he do any kind of there wasn't any, he didn't have any speaking parts. See, I didn't watch the whole show. I didn't watch the show.
No, if it was very little.
He basically just come out.
That was his whole
spot,
song, wasn't it? Just the song.
Yeah, that was it. He was only on there for that.
Right.
That's it.
So like I said, I've seen,
and it was very
seen
similar. It was very similar to an Alice Cooper show because he come from backstage off of a ladder, sang his part, pranced around for a little bit, back off stage again.
Right.
It was that.
But he,
that
like
was
I said,
Alice Cooper.
Right, but he has. I mean, he recorded that back in the '80s. He did it on another version of Jesus Christ Superstar. He's recorded that song before, so this wasn't his first round with this. Because I was asking Max, I was like, "Do you hear Alice Cooper?"
I never heard that. I didn't know that.
Jesus Christ Superstar, and Max goes, "He's done it before." And I said, "Really?" And I actually looked it up and YouTubed it, and yes, he did. Back in the '80s, he did another version of this show. I don't know if it was actually a live performance or just a re-recording of the thing, but I've actually heard the recording of it about a month before this.
Wow, cool! I had no clue.
So, but I do want to watch the whole thing. I TiVo'd it, and it's in my list of a shit gobba TiVos that I want to see. But I want to hear about you guys going to Louisville and seeing the actual Alice Cooper show.
Well, we went to Louisville and we saw Alice Cooper.
and it was like watching Alice Cooper.
And it was great, probably. Right?
It was really good. I was very. It was cool. I don't think that dude puts on a bad show. I really don't. I'm not. I like Alice Cooper. I'm not somebody that listens to every song. So there are songs that I know, but I don't know very well. I mean, Alan's singing along with most of it. I wasn't singing along with most of it, but I liked all of it.
Except for those 5 newer songs, I wasn't familiar with those.
Yeah, I knew the Paranormal. I knew the Paranorma, whatever it's called. I can't remember. So I knew that, but off the new album. But I'd heard most of them, but I don't really sing along with most of them. But
Alice is always promoting Alice is always promoting his new album. But the thing is whenever he does his standards, I mean, the thing is he just does a great show. It's a very visual. It's a performance. It is not just a rock. It's not like going to see a band perform.
It's rock theater.
It's rock theater.
Yeah, but it was that rock theater part really wasn't till the very end. I mean, till that near the end piece. The rest of it was really
it starts out with actually starts out with Dwight Fry. That's whenever it starts that nightmare kind of performance of stuff. But he does stuff though through the performance. He'll do some theatrics.
And that song is Paranormic Personality.
Yeah. He really didn't do any of that stuff until near the end. He did it all at the
last
end.
4 songs, last 5 songs.
Yeah. But all the rest.
I saw your set list. But
but it was kind of cool because he came out. Well, we knew there weren't going to be an opener, and he came on at 8:15.
Yeah.
Played till right about 10.
Oh,
10
there was
o'clock,
no opener.
10:05. Nope.
Oh, wow.
He started 8:15, and he left the stage twice. Once during the guitar solos, which I didn't get up and pee, even though Mitch gave me crap because I texted Mitch and said it's a guitar solo and I'm not going to pee. And then once during the drum and bass solo, and that's the only time he left the stage, and he didn't stop at all to talk.
Now, I just want you to know the only reason that Bill did not get up and pee is because Nita was doing the guitar solo. Hurricane Nita Strauss was wailing on that guitar. I was like, I thought you had to pee. It's a solo. Nope.
No.
Nope.
Not today.
Nope.
There's boobs involved in that, Not
really,
boobs.
it really
not
is
boobs. It's boobs.
Yeah, but it really isn't even that. It's just the fact that she's just a badass guitar chick.
She is.
Man.
She is really good.
She's a really good player. I mean,
well, the thing is anytime you say anything about Alice's band, they're badass. Period. There's not one person in that band that's cannot wear the brand that says badass.
Well, his theory about that, right?
Exactly.
We saw that on the Hired Gun, right?
Yeah.
He asks all of his friends who to hire, and that's who he hires. Great band.
So Alan, are you gonna fill me in on the? Was that an April Fool's joke?
No, that was it.
That was it.
Well, I was gonna bring it up, but Bill brought it up before I got a chance to get to it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the people who don't know what's happening right now is these two yahoos went to this concert, and then of course afterwards I like, what happened? And Alan goes, I'm gonna bust Bill's balls. I go, well, what's it about? He goes, I'm not gonna tell you because I'm gonna wait for the show because we gotta get your response. So I've been waiting for a fucking week to hear about this story.
And then I can't bust Bill's balls because he talks about it before I get a chance to. So
thanks, and his
Bill.
Boobs. And his boobs. I don't blame him. I wouldn't have left either.
I don't need any help. I just do it myself.
I won't get so worked up next time.
So let's see. Is there any other rock news? Today's Sebastian Bach's birthday, I think, right? Did I read that? He turns
Probably.
50 today or something like that.
Really? That's cool.
Unless
I got a little bit of Kiss news.
Yeah, Alan had that.
Cool.
Paul Stanley is going to, I believe, the Las Vegas Gene Simmons Vault Experience.
Yeah.
Did he do that on his own, or did he get pressured into that?
That's his brother from another mother now.
I don't think he ever.
Gene said he didn't know if he was going to show up.
I don't know.
All a play.
Well, so far the only
guys
one
have
that hasn't done it is Tommy. or hasn't committed to it. Oh, have you guys been paying attention to the Vinnie Vincent Facebook page?
I have.
It keeps going offline.
No, because I
think people keep hurting Vinny's feelings.
Well, here's what happened today. He was actually on his page. He was talking about, yeah, I'm glad and I'm back and everything. And they were all talking about, this weekend. I guess he's going to this weekend to that one of those Chiller Theater, whatever it is.
Children's Theater. What?
No, Chiller Theater, whatever.
Oh, Chiller.
Whatever it is. He's going to go to one of those signings all weekend. So like everybody's like going, oh, Vinny, I hope everything's positive. And of course, some troll post this GIF that says girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like this guy's already on the edge, and then you're gonna post shit like that. And the thing is and unfortunately, Vinny has really took to Facebook, which is the worst thing he could do, being that he's he's someone that's kind of affected by what people say and all this stuff, and was hidden away for 20 years, and now he's on Facebook, and these trolls are just like fucking hitting him hard. I mean, this girl who actually runs a Vinnie Vincent website was saying that this guy who is his lawyer, the guy who's running all of his things, said he's a what did he say he was? He was
some kind of scam artist.
Well, no, she goes, he's satanic. He is he's a racist.
Yeah.
I mean, she was like going, Vinny, you need to get away from this guy as fast as you can because he's going to bring you down and all this shit. And then Vinny come on, of course, on Facebook going in caps, all caps, who's saying this and blah, 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 and everything. I mean, it's a soap opera. And I hate it for Vinny. I mean, I really hope that he gets his shit straight, but he needs to stay away from the computer. Just let things happen.
That's the way you get stuff out now, though. You can't do it any other way.
I know, but he's dealing with the trolls and all that shit. So
it's bad. It's bad.
Anyway,
all right, you guys ready to roll?
I guess we're ready to roll. Like I said, we will see everybody in Indianapolis here. In what is that?
May the 11th or
no,
May the 12th and 13th.
Oh, you're supposed to let him try to get the date. That's the glory.
That's why my wife says you need to be informed, and I forgot to write all this shit down. But anyway, but you'll see us up there. I got a whole bag of T-shirts. I got a whole bag of T-shirts I got from my aunt. They're ready to come up, be sold. We got some really fun things that we're going to be trying to do up there at Indy. So have your phone with you, and we're going to be giving away some
stuff,
some swag. That stuff. There you go.
Stuff. There you go.
All
right. We will see you on the other side, people. Joel, what's going on, man?
How's it going, guys? Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for being on, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be here.
This is cool as hell for us. I mean, I think we're all big Whitesnake fans, and I know we're Rock of Ages fans.
Rocking my Whitesnake hoodie.
There you go.
There you go.
Cool. So yeah, cool. It's good to have you.
Yeah, good to be here, dude. Thank you.
So what have you been up to lately? I mean, we never see you on anything. You're always at home. You never.
This dude's got a resume that's like I mean, it's like where do you want to start? I mean, it's like, can we start from the beginning? I mean, it's like, holy crap.
You're catching me on pretty much the only hiatus of the year. This is kind of my time to regroup, and even that is filling up in a hurry. This was intended to be my kind of downtime of the year because I last November, December, I kind of bolted right into the Trans-Siberian Orchestra tour. As soon as I was off of that, I think I had 10 days at home, and I did a run with Cher in Vegas, and then I did the Monsters of Rock cruise on my own, and then with Russell Allen singing on my set, which was awesome. He's an amazing singer. And then went right into another run with Cher, and then I got home. So it was kind of like a steady, like nonstop for 4 months there. And then this is kind of like, I had a couple one-offs with that Rock of Ages, Broadway's Rock of Ages band that we kind of do corporates or whatever. It's fun. We just play the covers. And I worked with those guys for 6 years. So it's like we're friends, and it's just, those are fun. And I got some shows coming up with my buddy Brandon Gibbs, and those were kind of intended to be my only things for March and April to kind of regroup, because May I'm with Cher again, then June and July, of course, I'm out with Whitesnake with the Foreigner tour, and then on the heels of that, there's more Cher stuff happening, more Whitesnake happening, and then straight into TSO. So it's almost like, I'm booked essentially like 10 months of the year touring wise. So, I'm not 25 years old and I've got a family here at home and everything. So I trying to give myself a little bit of downtime, but it's all good, dude.
That's cool. So I'm looking for, I'll be seeing you in the summer. So I'm going to see the Foreigner Whitesnake show, and
Nice.
saw you a couple years ago in Indianapolis at the Murat. I took my son. That was one of his first big shows, and we have a picture of the two of us out in front of the marquee with Whitesnake on the marquee, and it was a great show. You guys did a great job. It was rocked the shit out of us, so we really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So let me ask you a question. How do you? Because I was looking through, your big resume of everything you've done. How do you get hooked up with Cher? I mean, seriously. I mean, that's a. I mean, I know it's. I mean, she's going to get the best players and what have you, but being with Whitesnake, Night Ranger, Trans-Siberian. I mean, I know it goes everywhere, but how did you get hooked up with Cher?
Yeah, so the way that worked was when we finished the Greatest Hits tour, Whitesnake, in 2016, it was kind of passed on to us that David was probably going to want to spend the next year just recording and not touring. So, as working musicians do, I just kind of texted everybody I could see in my phone that was like a colleague or whatever, or in the biz, and said, hey, keep your eyes and ears open for me. And I'm going to be building a year. It was a great challenge for me not to have those like 4 or 5 months of Whitesnake to fall back on and go like, it was like, all right, I got to fill this year up. So I just, did everything, and it was a blast. Actually, I ended up having a phenomenal year. And so one of the things that came of it, my friend Justin Derrico, that plays guitar on The Voice, recommended me to Cher's guitar player, Dave Barry, who he is also plays on The Voice. He's guitar 2 on The Voice. So he needed a sub for the Cher gig at the time. And as it turns out, Dave has been so busy with The Voice that it's pretty much at this point, it's my gig. I just kind of get the first offer on most of it and have done a bunch of it. So, it's worked out great. It ended up being a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I thought like one little run, and I thought, that'd be fun. But it's turned into, I think I've done like 6 or 7 runs now at this point. So it's going great.
How is she to work? How is she to work for?
Honestly, a situation like that where it's like, it's more in the pop realm, I mean, she's got like dancers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the band was kind of in the background for the majority of it. And then I step out with her a few times. So she doesn't do sound check or anything like that. So your interaction is pretty limited. I talked to her before the show. She's perfectly nice. It's not like I'm not saying she's not nice to work for. She is, but it has a lot more to do with dealing with the other musicians, dealing with the keyboard player who's the music director. And all the players are great, so it's really it's been a blast to work with all of them, and they all do great stuff. The other keyboard player plays with Stevie Nicks, and the music directors MD'd everybody from Tina Turner to Christina Aguilera to Pink, and everybody. And we got Jason Sutter on drums right now. He's played with everybody from Marilyn Manson to Chris Cornell to, he's playing with Joe Perry and his band now. And so guys that, do really big gigs. And so it's great to be a part of it.
Cool.
We saw a documentary here a while back, Hired Guns. They were talking about people that are basically, they go from band to band and, and all this stuff, where you're hired in. And it's kind of interesting where you're gonna same deal with that. I mean, you're getting hired. Does Cher keep her main band together though? Like you said, whenever they go back on tour, you're basically called in for that.
You get the offer for it, I think, but I think she had more of a steady thing going for a while, but it's become a little bit more of people in and out because it's the nature of this. When she does these short residencies, it's not enough to have it be somebody's only gig. Because you're only working, I don't know how many weeks out of the year. I couldn't really tell you, but it's not enough to make it your only thing. So people are booking other stuff. Like I've got Whitesnake and then Trans-Siberian Orchestra in the fall. So that would take priority for me just because I've been there so long, and with each of those, and those are a little bit more up, my alley in terms of, I guess, showcasing my abilities and stuff like that. It's really an honor to work with her. I mean, she's an icon and all that stuff, but it's not the heaviest like guitar gig. Where,
that's why I find it so interesting that say you go from Trans-Siberian to Whitesnake to you work with Night Ranger, all that stuff, and then you're playing with Cher. It's like that's not a guitar driven kind of song.
They all have their own challenges, I mean, with that, I got to play 16th note wah, like disco stuff. I've got to be able to play folky acoustic guitar, and I've got to be able to play all that stuff with good time and good tone and never make mistakes. And so everything has its challenges, and you'd be surprised. There's some stuff that's like synced up to the dancer's choreography that's like very, unison run, and it's a lot to not screw up. So despite the fact it sounds like, okay, that's probably like 3 chords, it'd be really easy. It's still very much about playing in the pocket and playing with good sounds and play, at the end of the day, a pro gig is a pro gig. You got to play really well to have it. There's no like, oh, I played the wrong chord there. Sorry, dude.
I'll get it next time, man.
Yeah.
Give me one more shot.
So every gig has its own challenges, and they all have their pros and cons. For as much as, like I said, okay, there's not, it doesn't showcase me as much as, say, Whitesnake, where I have my own solo on stage for 4 or 5 minutes or whatever. Hard to beat that. But there's a wonderful professionalism to it, and it's like you take travel out of the equation with these residencies, and you only play 3 shows a week. So that's like, Vegas, man, playing 3 shows a week. It's really great. It's a very cush lifestyle compared to, grinding and out touring, traveling to each city. The TSO gig, for instance, has 8 2.5-hour shows a week, and signing line after every evening show for the whole arena. Anybody that wants to come through, and I mean, you really, really work extremely hard with TSO. So it's a nice counterbalance that, we'll put it that way.
How long have you been doing TSO?
This is going to be, I joined in 2010. So this is year number 8 for me, I guess. Yeah. Or no, I guess number 9 this year. I missed 2015 though. So technically tour number 8 for me.
So do they have an East and West also? Is it kind of like that too, where they have 2 different actually traveling bands for that?
Yeah, the way it works is, I mean, there's a lot more cohesiveness there than you would picture. Then it sounds almost like too distant to say there's 2 different bands, because it's kind of, we all do put the set and the music and the show together, like in the same place, while the West band is rehearsing in one room, we're out on the main stage, or vice versa. And so there's lots of like, okay, this is what the set's going to be. Now, what are you doing? I work a lot with Al Petrelli, who's the music director out West, to see what he's doing, to cop a lot of what he's doing to keep the show consistent. We don't want people seeing it, on one end and going, oh, it was a completely different show than this. So we try to keep it streamlined and as close to, as possible to each other. Obviously there's going to be individual expression put into that show. It's just the nature of making music, but the goal with TSO is to always make the show bigger than all of us. That show is about the production itself and about Trans-Siberian Orchestra itself. That'll always be bigger than, me as a guitar player or anybody who's involved in it, really. So it's all kind of just learning to serve that and putting all that individualistic kind of stuff aside. And it's very easy to do because I have a blast doing it. And how many times can you say you get to play your guitar or play rock music that you dig for 10,000 people a show these days, and be out on the road with your best friends? It's a blast for me. So I totally love the gig.
Cool. Have you worked with Nathan James?
Nathan did the West end of it, but like I said, we rehearse together. So you see each other 2 weeks before the tour begins, or something.
Got you.
So yeah, but Nathan and I also co-wrote. I guess was it only one song that made the album? The First Inglorious album. I co-wrote one of the songs.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we had Colin, their bass player, on the show back a while ago, and that's a great. I love that album. I love both those albums.
Not a very articulate
great stuff.
Guy. No, I'm kidding. It's a bad joke. Boy, that must have been a long interview, huh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, way over the pond.
They're great. I'm really happy for those guys. They built it up and seem to be going on their way to new heights. So that's totally cool. Nathan's an amazing dude, super nice guy.
Cool. So how do you it's kind of interesting with those guys being across the pond over there. And I know that does David live in England? Is that where he's at most of the time?
No, he's been in Tahoe for years.
Oh, okay, for a while. Yeah, I didn't know if that was.
His management did a very smart thing with him back in the heyday, because he was on the road all the time, and they said, we're going to put you here. They took him up to Lake Tahoe, and they said, they recommend you get a house here. He said, well, why here? And they said, well, no state taxes, and very, very smart. You think about over the years what you've saved, it's outrageous. So he's got a beautiful home there. And then there's a band home in Reno that there's bedrooms and a studio built into what essentially just looks like a really, really nice suburban home. And but inside, when you open the doors,
it's a rock palace.
Yeah, exactly. There's a rock band living in there, so it's great going out there. And David usually stays at the band house when we go down there, so there's lots of time. He still loves to be one of the boys and one of the guys. He doesn't want to be alienated from the rest of us, despite the fact he's worth much more money than the rest of us. He's a wonderful guy, man. He's been a great boss so far.
It's kind of interesting because he's one of those guys. You made a comment earlier when we were talking about, these guys need to know, these artists need to know. Older artists forget where they're getting their exposure nowadays. They're waiting for that big interview, or we're waiting for that big interview. And it's interesting because David's on social media all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah, David, he loves Twitter, right? That's his thing.
He does. He's on it all the time, and he posts the funniest shit. I swear to God, well,
that's how he is in person too. He's very much about the laughs, which is great. It's I've said this in interviews before, but it's pretty cool because you'll be laughing with him about stuff and he'll be cracking you up. And then the next minute he'll tell you a story about, working with Jimmy Page or with Richie Blackmore or something. It's like, oh, wow, wait a minute, I forgot that this dude, you start forgetting because you just start having fun with him. But it's like, oh, yeah, this guy's worked with, legendary dudes and is a legendary dude in his own right, So it's, for me, it's great fun. I grew up with all these 80s guys, I'm a little younger, I'm not going to tell you my age, I guess, but you could Google it, I'm sure. But I grew up with, even when I was in Night Ranger, I used to have Brad Gillis and Jeff Watson hung up, all my favorite guitar players, and those guys were all hung up on the wall. And so it's been fun for me to get to work with a lot of my heroes from back when I was younger.
That's cool.
So last year was the 20th anniversary of the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, and you were one of the camp counselors. You care to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I've done 2 of those. So I did a Deep Purple themed one. That was the first one. And then the second one was Heart and Guns N' Roses, because Steven Adler and Nancy Wilson were kind of so what you do is they give you a camper band, so to speak, like, I guess, 4 or 5 of the people who have paid to go to the camp, and it's kind of your job to whip them into shape. And then you perform live with them a couple times, and I had a blast, man. I mean, I think you have to enjoy that, and I do. When I was younger, I used to teach 70 students a week, so I've got a long history of teaching and knowing how to articulate that to people and explain things and break it down, and also just get a grasp on what people are capable of, and not try and overreach. And so I've had a great time. They run, David Fishoff runs a great thing there. Been honored to be a part of it.
Let me ask you something about your preferences on rig, as far as guitars and amps and stuff like that. What do you use? What are your preferences on that?
I've been using the Friedman B100s on the Whitesnake tours, the first 2 tours that I did with the band, and used that on the new album. Also, a modded Marshall 800 that was basically Slash's.
Wow.
I used a Metza Barba amp. I forget the model, but they hooked me up with a head that's a great head, and Victory, and I'm going to forget that model number too. I'm awful with the model numbers, but
Right.
I used all these on the new record kind of. Most of the time, one of them in conjunction with the Marshall. The Marshall kind of became the mainstay.
Right.
Trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing in there, but I think those were the main heads. Reb does those custom audio electronics heads, which are great too. And actually, I ended up using those on a few things just out of sheer laziness. We'd have Reb's amp set up. Oh, let's just keep rolling through that. But yeah, so there you go. I used like 5 amps on the new album. So there's not really one thing I'm tied into. And as far as guitars go, I'm a Les Paul guy, but
I figured that's what it was, because every picture I see with you, you're Les Paul. So
yeah, but I mean, there's definitely a spot for I sort of like the traditional guitars. I like the Les Paul Strats and Tellys in terms of what I think sounds good to my ears, and just kind of traditional sound of the Fender and the Gibson stuff. I got a great Friedman Telly that's done really well for me, and of course the guys at Atomic make me some Les Paul style guitars, that Purple Sparkle guitar, and with Night Ranger the American Flag guitar, and those sound great. So again, I'm not really tied into any one company, which is a great place to be. I can just kind of play instruments that I like without anybody griping about, hey, how come you didn't use our guitar? I haven't signed anything exclusive with anybody. The Cher thing I've been using on the step out stuff, the Phil Collin model Jackson, the Jackson PC1. I just think that's a gig without an amp on stage. The amp is off stage in an ISO box. And so for me to have the sustainer on there, that's a huge thing. And I needed a foil, something to stay in tune, because I'm doing some Jimmy Bar stuff, and you're stepping out. So, give me a minute, let me run back to the pedal board and tune up while I'm,
Yeah, you need a Lockett tremolo at that point. You need a Floyd or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At that point, you've definitely, you're hanging out to dry if something's going wrong. So that's worked out great on that gig. And TSO is kind of like, when I do that, I make it, that gig is really visual, in my opinion. It's a lot about the production and the lights and the lasers and pyro. And so for me, the more guitars I can cram into it, the better. If I get my collection out there, and I could probably do the whole show with like a couple of guitars, but I end up using like 10 every year, because it's like, it's just fun. Gives me an opportunity to knock the dust off all of them if they've been sitting around for 10 months, and go, let's get it out there. But I usually bring a few Les Pauls, and I got a Firebird this year, my first one of those that I
that's cool.
Played, and a V, and all the you can use all the pointy guitars on TSO. It's very cool.
Exactly.
Those are the ones that Paul O'Neill always liked. He didn't like the single coil guitars, not so much on the Strats and the Tellys. You're supposed to kind of avoid those, but
my wife she's been to two of those shows as far as the Trans-Siberian, and she was talking about, because I haven't been to one yet, and she's like, it's just more than music. It's the the lights and there. I mean, it's a production. It's a huge production.
It's definitely the show that's like I said, that's always bigger than the performers, which is totally fine. I don't need everything I do to be about. It gets boring. I get bored listening to endless guitar solos and guitar players sometimes too. I like it to be about just show and songs, and that's the stuff that I'm more into anyway. So it's all good with me. It's a blast to be a part of, and it's different too with TSO. You're playing for all ages. You're not just playing for people like Whitesnake. I'm pretty much playing for people my age or very similar.
All right, the 50 guys.
But with TSO, you're playing all the way from the grandparents to the little kids to everything in between. So you've got a wide variety to play for, and some people bum out on that. But I got to tell you, man, you can go out in the audience, and I play sometimes for kids, and you realize like you just changed their life, when you do stuff like that. You step off a stage where you're in front of 10,000 people and you walk up to them and you play a little bit, or, we'll joke or sit down next to them if there's a seat or whatever. And you get these beautiful thank you emails from the parents about that stuff, how you impacted their kids now playing guitar or now playing, music and really focused on it. And so stuff like that to me, the older I get, the more that stuff means something to me, more than just, whatever, self-gratification. It's cool to see like a show like that gives something back to people, and you really feel like you're inspiring people, kids, and that's fun.
Well, I mean, ask Gene or Paul if they mind if an 80-year-old or a 3-year-old's at their concert. They don't care. I mean, they look at it as they're fans, and there's new fans that are coming in. I mean, you're going to make new fans every day. So
absolutely,
that's great. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
In 2015, you put out an album called "Dying to Live." Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so, well, before that, in previous years, I guess probably 2001 through 2007, I'd put out a few instrumental CDs. And those are kind of, first one was very rock fusion. Second one was like rock fusion progressive-ish. And then the third one was like a fingerstyle acoustic album. So then as things kind of took off for me in this, 80s rock niche or whatever, if you will, sounds so cliche, but, getting in Night Ranger and doing Rock of Ages and doing Trans-Siberian Orchestra and then Whitesnake. And there was a lot of people that are like, you don't have any rock stuff of your own out, why not? And I thought, I guess it'd be smart for me to do that. So I just basically got my favorite musicians in the classic rock scene and made an album. And it was cool because I got to do all the writing on it, like the words, the lyrics and everything, which you're never really afforded that luxury as a guitar player in bands that you're kind of a newer member of. I'm not going to step into Night Ranger or Whitesnake and say, guys, I got the lyrics covered on this one, and rightfully so. I mean, these guys have, fought for 35 years to build up their bands. And so, who's the guy who's been in the band 5 years to step in and say, I want to do that. So it gave me an opportunity to do that. The lyrics and the melodies and everything, and write all the music and produce it the way I wanted it to sound. And so the lineup was great. Vinny Appice on drums, and Tony Franklin on bass, and Russell Allen and Jeff Scott Soto did the singing for me, and then Derek Sherinian played keyboards. So great lineup of musicians, and
great
I got
lineup.
Great feedback on it from people. So really proud of the effort I put in on it, and hopefully be able to do some kind of follow up for it.
That's great. I listened to it. The last couple of days too to get ready for this as well. But I didn't realize it was out there, so it was cool to. That's the thing about this for us, I think too, is we get turned on to new stuff that we haven't heard, or something that's buried somewhere that we didn't catch at some point. And it's really good. That Scream song that's on that album, I love that song. I've had that in the car to the point where the people around me with the windows all rolled up are like, what the hell is going on?
The best thing to do is get caught singing and dancing in your car while you're driving.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
The best one that ever happened to me is I was driving up the street one day on my lunch break, and I had "Do You Want to Touch Me" by Joan Jett. My windows were rolled down, and I was singing at the top of my lungs, and my boss pulled up right beside me and just looked at me and smiled.
She's like, no, I don't want you to touch. I don't want you to touch, Alan.
I don't want to touch you. I don't want to touch. I don't want to see you being touched.
No touching.
Wow.
Anyway.
So, Joel, is there anybody that you haven't played with that you would really like to play with?
I don't necessarily think that way. It's just kind of like whoever is talented and a nice person, kind of, gravitate towards positive people, keep positive energy in your life and all that stuff. And so, yeah, that definitely the talent thing is always appealing. Great people who inspire you to be better and play better. And so I couldn't necessarily name anybody specifically, but just anybody who fits that bill.
Cool.
Is there anybody you listen to? I mean, what other bands do you, if you have a chance to, or you don't have a chance, you're like,
I pretty much spend like, nowadays I'm a dad. So if I'm at home, I'm with the kids all day. And then at night, I'll pretty much, we'll just run whatever's coming up next. Like when our podcast is over tomorrow night, I'm playing a jam at the Iridium here in town. So run through the songs for that I'm playing. And that kind of continues. You'd be surprised throughout the year. It's like I kind of have a musical task for myself every night once the kids are down. So there's very little like, all right, let me listen to this band or this style, or it's kind of like it's just on the go. It's like I don't know. It just you learn off what you're just naturally exposed to, and a lot of that actually comes from my kids these days. My son is getting into rock, and like, Dad, let's listen to Kiss, and I'm like, I guess I haven't really, I kind of missed the whole Kiss thing, to be honest with you. By the time I got into rock, I was like 11, and I loved AC/DC, So I think the Kiss thing,
there's nothing wrong with that though.
Makeup thing, and they went, oh, they're like superheroes, but my parents were not into rock music at all. They're classical people, so we never had it playing around the house. So like I said, I kind of missed the Kiss thing a bit. I mean, I got into them like when they took off the makeup, and I was like, oh, that's a cool song, like Lick It Up. I was like, that's a jam. That's a cool song. I like that, but I missed all the early Kiss stuff. I had to go back and
we were into Kiss when it was hard to be a Kiss fan.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, Alan got into it. Alan got into it a little bit.
Well, I was into Kiss when they were still in their makeup, but as a teenager, they took their makeup off in '83 when I was 13 years old. So for the second half of my middle school years and my high school years, we were fans of Kiss when nobody cared about Kiss. So we just caught a lot of shit for being fans of Kiss.
Well, I definitely know a lot about that. Going through the 90s was that way. That entire decade was that way for being into, I just kind of went with whatever during that time. I did a lot of different stuff, and I'm kind of glad it happened in a way because it made me a better musician. But that was like a time where, I had to make myself valuable to people without guitar solos. You couldn't like fall back on that. Yeah, but listen to this, that wasn't going to happen on the gig. So, but that was a tough era for that too, because I never understood the whole, like, it's not that I didn't embrace some of the 90s music or different styles of music. I totally do, but I didn't understand the whole, now we're supposed to hate what we were just listening to for 10 years.
Well,
it was weird. It was kind of a weird.
Why would you all of a sudden act like you don't like the music you just liked? You were listening to for 10 years because the guys looked
different. No.
I believe that's called being pretentious.
I guess. I don't know. For me, it was like, there's like some of those bands I like. There were some good Stone Temple Pilots tunes and some good Soundgarden stuff for sure. And, some of it I liked more than the other stuff, but I couldn't necessarily chalk up like a whole decade and say, well, I would never listen to that. It just doesn't make any sense. But that's kind of what was happening to the 80s when the 90s were happening.
Oh, exactly. But the thing is, you got to be strong enough to do that. I mean, I'm the guy who rock out to Kiss, and then I'll pull out a Carpenter's album and think that Karen Carpenter is an angel, and I'll sing along with her shit all day long. You know what? Well, the thing is, I don't care. I don't care what people think.
Yeah, I don't care either. And I could truthfully say I've never been like the prototypical like cool dude. It's even with what I gig with now isn't necessarily like in vogue. Especially I live in Manhattan, where you get all the musicians are trendy and still trying to act like they're 25 years old and for the contemporary pop gigs. And so for me, I'm like, well, why would I do that? I love all my gigs, and I think they're cool, and I have a blast doing it. And I think secretly, people that have those trendy gigs are always a little more envious of some of the stuff I'm doing anyway, and go, man, I wish I could, have fun like that, and rock out on stage and be animated and have a ball. And so that's all good, man. But to each his own, and I would never begrudge anybody. It's all, life is so much more than that to make things a contest. It's definitely, for me, it's about self-driven goals more than it is other people.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you walked on the big stage, your first big show?
Well, big is definitely a relative term, right? I mean, I remember my first band gig, which was a talent show at our drummer's high school. And I remember it. I was so scared I couldn't move my feet. They were like, gorilla glued to the deck. It was like complete anxiety, just like, oh my God, it was one of those, the curtain went up or whatever. And there we were. And, I think it was pretty horrendous. I think like a couple of things weren't even in the PA. And, it's like, I think it was maybe like one guitar and a vocal that made it into the PA because the front of house guy was like one of our buddies or something, but anyway, whatever, all good, take all these steps and somehow everything ended up pretty good. So
cool. Look, you've come a long way. I think you made it.
Again, that's all relative. You know what I mean? It's I think that if I had to go with the definition of that, it'd be getting through the whole thing, never having to do anything else. Which it's looking promising, but you never know. Like, I just think life would feel pretty bad if all of a sudden I was like waiting tables in another like 15 years or something, 10, 15 years down the road. So, I say it all with like, try and have gratitude for the moment and like appreciation for everything that's going on and that you're able to make a living doing it. And, that's kind of the modern day rock star, the rock star, the multiple Ferraris and the mansion dream is kind of like, well, realistically, it's more about like, can you actually make a living doing this and like, do pretty well. So,
what's your favorite stuff to play? I mean, I know you can't pick a favorite because I'm sure you're going to pick the band that you're in now, but of all the stuff that you've played, what has been your favorite to play? I mean, just as your personal, it's like, man, I really dig this shit that I'm playing and I really like it. I mean, do you have a preference?
I can honestly say, I don't know. I get into a zone about like execution and on whatever it is I'm playing. And I have a lot of fun playing it. I like, we're talking about the Cher thing, and obviously some of it isn't like Guitar Hero music and it's not like hard rock, but I have as much fun playing those songs. It's just about, concentrating on playing with really good time. And your mind goes to like playing the best you can. So basically anytime I'm playing a gig, I'm kind of in that mindset. I will say that I feel best when everyone around me is playing that well too. And when it sounds great, that's when I get really happy. I think, I'm definitely the type of guitar player that could be happy playing G, C, D all night long if it was on a really high level. I don't necessarily need a guitar solo to make me happy. I just like that the quality of music being delivered is what would make me happy.
There's some, and like I say, I play in a band too, and there's some nights that are better than others, and there's some nights that just the sound is mixed right, everything's clicking, everybody's clicking on everybody else, and those are the nights you get some of those gigs that they start rolling and they just don't work, and then it's like you go home, it's like you feel like you've been beat to the dog, like a dog, and then like I say the next gig you go there and just everything kind of works and there's kind of a harmony. And everything is, you go home and it's like going, that was fun. That was actually why I do this,
I think I have, just from my parents being classical people, there's like a bar that's there for me just because in the back of my mind in terms of what's good music. Just because, they weren't cheap dates in terms of like having them out to my shows and having them tell me that we were good. My parents would pretty much give me the straight skinny and be like, you guys were bad, If stuff was pitchy and out of time and out of tune and, they wouldn't tell me that was amazing. They would be like, okay, you're coming along,
That's good though.
Yeah, it is. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
That was pretty much the end of my thought.
So then being classically trained and you started down this rock road and you went and said, I'm going to be a guitarist in a rock band. That's my goal. Were they very accepting of that, or were they like, no, that's not where
I think so. I mean, they were accepting enough to let me go out to GIT in Hollywood when I was 19. So that's pretty accepting. They let me go out there for that and were supportive of that. They weren't like overwhelmingly like, yeah, you got to do it, let's help them. And it wasn't necessarily like that. I think there was definitely some recommendations of, you might want to make music your hobby because it's really hard to make a living playing music. And, there were definitely a few of those talks. It wasn't like blind optimism. But that being said, that I kind of regret because it's really, as the older I got, the more I just realized it's all just about working hard. If you work really, really hard and like you're fine. I'm yet to meet a guitar player who's like, man, I practiced 8 hours a day my entire life and I'm still terrible and like I can't make a living at it. It's like that doesn't happen. You become amazing and you make a living at it. That's the way it goes. But it's putting in those 8 hours. I think there's a book on that, right? The Outliers, talking about the number of hours spent doing something. The natural ability thing is overrated. Totally agree with that. It's all just like, it's about time spent doing something.
So how about your kids? Are they musical? I mean, have they gotten that gift?
Super young, very young, 6 and 2. So, but yeah, I would say so. I think there's definitely some signals that stuff's all there. So be fun to watch it. But then again, they don't necessarily have to do that. I don't want to be that rock dad, that guy who makes their kid all about them, names their kid after a rock star,
Or a piece of fruit. You didn't name one of them after a piece of fruit, did you?
or a classical composer like Eddie Van Halen did. To me, that always felt like, okay, well now you're just saying that this kid's got to be like a prodigy. That's a lot of pressure. I think I'd rather have my kids just be happy and figure out what they want to do. The one thing I'll try and instill in them is to work hard, though.
It's kind of interesting because you got Wolfgang that's in Van Halen. And you got Daz from, Rick Nielsen's sons playing in Cheap Trick, which is kind of cool. I mean, you do have a little bit of that going on, which is kind of cool.
There definitely is the sons. And, I mean, obviously I wouldn't lie. It'd be fun to watch my son take up guitar and be able to show him stuff on there. But if he's not into it, he's not into it. We'll see how it goes. And seems like he's going to be. He's definitely emulating rock stars like nonstop, and is, we're working on the music fundamentals on keyboard first and seeing if I can get that going. But he's been air guitaring since he was 2 years old. He was Dee Snider for Halloween when he was 2. So
that is epic.
There you go.
Definitely a lot of it.
I want some candy. Yeah.
And if you don't, we're not going to take it.
Awesome.
So that's kind of interesting. So how did he get to be, did he pick Dee Snider at 2?
Yeah. I mean, those songs, those Twisted Sister songs really appeal to kids. The We're Not Going to Take It thing, which Dee divulged to me is basically "Oh Come All Ye Faithful," if you think of the notes. Da 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 da. Oh come all ye faithful. So it's really the same melody that kind of hooks kids in, and they like the rebellion thing of "We're not going to take it," and it's very easy to latch onto that chorus. It's sung over and over, and definitely the "I Want to Rock."
The video itself was almost a cartoon. I mean, it was basically a Looney Tune type cartoon.
Yeah, and they've got obviously the kids are back. My son loves that one.
Yeah,
and Can't Stop Rock and Roll. All those songs are really easy to latch onto the choruses for kids. So it's funny, for a while that was like the only band. It was like just Dee Snider and Twisted Sister. That was it. That was all he had time for.
It's like going.
So,
here's the Night Ranger, and here's the.
This is my son. You see the Whitesnake in the background?
Oh yeah, cool. Oh yeah, awesome.
So it's kind of funny. He is my concert buddy. So he was 15 at the time, and now he's 17. But and he'll go to everything. So he's like, we've got shows lined up for this summer, and we're coming to see Foreigner again because we went last. So we're coming to see you guys again. But this show kind of was a last minute deal. I knew tickets were on sale, and we were going down the road, and I don't remember, here in town or whatever. And Here I Go Again comes on the radio, and he goes, "We're going to that show, right?" I'm like,
we are now.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. It's funny because he knew 2 songs of the whole show, stood the entire time, fist pumping in the air, had a great time, and he's like, hey, and he's been to a bunch of shows. It's kind of funny. He's a lot like me at that age, but it's it's great to be able to experience that with kids and have a very similar musical taste. Because I have other kids that we don't. I have one kid that's really into EDM and that stuff, which I can't figure that shit out.
I mean, I can't help but kind of expose him to my tastes on some of it because I know a lot about it. A lot of that has been a big part of my life, and he sees, he catches on enough to see what's happening. So, it's natural, but I wouldn't mind him being into other styles of music or something. I mean, I can learn from it and possibly, I guess learn from him, which is always cool. The kids, having kids, I think you guys know, then you do end up learning from it and being a parent too. It's not just like teaching them. So, especially nowadays when the questions are firing in and you can just look on Google and give them the answer, you end up learning a whole lot in a day. These guys want to know so much,
That's for sure.
Well, I never could pull the wool over my kid's eyes because he mastered Google before I did.
That's very dangerous right now. I was asked yesterday, actually, how do you Google something? He's like wanting to get into that. I thought I better not tell him that one. No. Let's change the topic.
Well, the good thing is if I need any IT help at all, I know who to call because I can call him and go, my phone will not do this. And he's like, just give me the phone. He's like, it's just like totally disgusted that he has to.
I always call Alan because Alan.
We always call Alan. Yeah, so Joel, so the summer's coming around, right? So when do you guys head out on the road with Foreigner and Jason Bonham?
So I think we fly to rehearsals June 4, and then the first date is going to be June 15. It's a little bit weird because we rehearse in LA, and then we need to give the gear time to get across the country by truck all the way to Maine, where the run begins. So it's like we'll rehearse and then I think have like 4 days off or something while the gear is getting out there, and then head over to Maine and start the run. So, but yeah, the 15th, June 15 is the first date.
Cool. Do you guys travel by bus then from show to show, or are you guys plane and everything?
I would think that's probably a bus tour. I haven't really looked at the routing, honestly. I'll probably start taking a closer look at it very soon. Probably in May, I'll really take a look at what are we doing now?
Where are we going to be?
Yeah. I don't even know, honestly. Like I know the start and the end dates. That's because if somebody calls and asks me to do a gig, I can tell them like, yeah, well, sure, I'm home or I'm not. So.
Yeah, awesome. That'll be a great show. I'm looking forward to it. So
the Foreigner.
I'm gonna try to catch it.
Excellent. So. That's a great night of classic rock, and hearing the Zeppelin stuff with Jason Bonham and Whitesnake's obviously got a great catalog, and Foreigner, that lineup nowadays sounds amazing. So it'd be really great.
Yeah, I actually saw that Foreigner show twice last year, which I was just so impressed. Jason Bonham. I mean, I like Led Zeppelin, but I'm not a huge Led Zeppelin fan, but sitting in there listening to them play, the band he has is incredible. I mean, I was very impressed with the vocalist and their guitar player, and you could sit there and close your eyes and it was as close. Yeah, it was as close as you're going to get. It was really amazing.
I haven't seen it yet, so I'm looking forward to it. And I guess I've never met Jason, just like briefly backstage, like nodded heads, doing one of those to him.
It's like, hey man, what's up?
It'd be nice to get a chance to say hey.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Joel, where can people find you? We need to wrap up here a little bit. So.
Yeah, no worries. I have a very difficult name, so I'll just spell it for people, and then they can just go to my .com, right? So Joel, Joel, Hoekstra, HOEKSTRA.com. And then all my social media links are right there, so you can click over to any of that stuff. And I do usually pretty well about getting back to anybody, so hit me up.
And if you hit the bio thing, you just sit back and read the list. It goes on, and
you got like 5 hours to sit there and listen to go through
this. one of the guys that includes like the people he's jammed just like once or twice even, because the way I look at it, you can go either way with that argument. Say, well, you didn't really play with them. It's like, well, yeah, I did, man, and that's hard work to get to that point.
Hey, man, I've been on stage with Ron Keel and Bob Kulick, and if you think I ain't gonna take credit, I will show you the damn video on YouTube.
There you go, man. I'm the same way. I look at it like, some of those credits on there, like, I have Wyclef on there, and that was just, Debbie Gibson having me down to a Celebrity Apprentice taping, and he came down to jam and asked me to jam with him, and I ended up playing, a couple tunes with Wyclef for people, but that's all it was. But hey, I played with Wyclef. What it is. These circumstances in life lead you to do stuff like that. So I'm still proud of those little things like that too. I think it's cool.
Yep, you should be. I mean, everybody should be proud of that stuff. I mean, if anytime you do anything like that, you should be proud of it.
It's sort of what it does though is it gives you the bio where it's like, wow, this guy's played with everybody, and it's like
he's played with like 600 people.
There's some really drastic different things, like I was in Night Ranger for 7 years, or now with TSO for what did we say, 9 years versus 10 minutes with Wyclef Jean, but whatever, dude, it's all good,
Yeah, it's all good. It's like, man, I've listened to Night Ranger for 20 years, dude. I mean, that's what I did.
Actually, their new album that they just came out with last year was phenomenal too. I saw those guys last year.
Night Ranger. Love
good stuff.
Joel, thanks so much, dude.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Hang around for a minute.
Yeah, hang around. Don't hang up yet. So, you can catch Joel out this summer on tour with Whitesnake and Jason Bonham. An evening with Jason Bonham. They had to change the name. I just read that today.
Yeah,
Led Zeppelin asked them to change that.
Led Zeppelin Evening.
Yes, they changed that. It was Experience last summer.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know why they. Yeah, what happens if he plays in the afternoon?
I don't know. There was that came down from the Led Zeppelin camp is where it's how that got changed.
Is that right?
Yeah, and Foreigner's headlining that tour, and then you'll find him on the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I'm sure, in later, and Cher, and God knows what else, right, man?
I should also mention Whitesnake has a new album coming out this summer. Yeah. So, awesome. I'm not sure of the release date on that. It's kind of still up in the air a bit, but there should be news on that soon. But I think that the working title right now is Flesh and Blood, and so people can keep an eye out for that.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, that's it for us. You guys can catch us on agesofrock.com, Spotify, Spreaker,
not Spreaker,
Stitcher.
You get that messed up
all the time. See, that's why they ask me to do this stuff. I don't want
YouTube,
iTunes. Hey, leave us a review. Give us a 5. We will see you later.
Peace out.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Ages of Rock podcast. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and most importantly, tell all your friends. Remember, you're never too old to rock. Until the next episode, peace out, folks.